Well, hello everyone. Glad we're having you here today at today's edition of our Job Search Guide, and we'll get right into it. Let me introduce you our amazing guest, Lucia Patoprsta. Thank you, Lucia, for being here.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. Perfect. So Lucia, just for you to know, is an experienced people and HR person, as I saw on your LinkedIn profile. She's now the HR director at Bonami, and she used to work at U Plus as the chief people officer as well. And with Lucia, we'll be focusing on the topic of acing your job interview today. For those who don't know, my name is Erica, and I work at Fempalet. And for those who don't know Fempalet, we are a let's say, platform for helping women with their professional and development and helping them grow in their careers. And we have a very diverse community of over 1,500 members, and we organize educational networking events, and our main project is our mentoring program. So this type of interview that we got into is basically to help you better understand right away, in depth, a topic that could help you make a move in your career. And today we'll be focusing with Lucia on how to ace your interview and how to get hired, basically. So we'll keep it short and sweet, since we want to really keep it short and sweet, and we'll get right into it. And so Lucia, the first question that I got on you, let me just open up my notes. Okay, so the first question is basically, what is the key thing to do when preparing for an interview?
Of course, everybody says know where you're interviewing. So know the company, know the position, know the job. But I would say know your qualities and don't be afraid to sell them, but not just like, hey, here I am and this is me, accept me, but have examples ready. Have tough situations that you've solved ready. Have examples of your teamwork or of improvements that you've made that weren't even asked of you. So be prepared to sell your qualities, but with the examples on hand.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So one of the advice, of course, you said that, know the company and get the resources done is, of course, actually to get to know more the company. Would you advise any resources where to look for more information about the company, where I apply to, where I'm going to the interview?
Just imagine that you're stalking a friend or somebody that you would like to know more information about. So just go and search if they have some social media activity, I don't know, Facebook, Instagram, and what they post. Maybe if you know somebody who works there, ask them what is it like, what the position is like, or try to get in touch with them more personally.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So online or not, what about the dress code? What do you think that people should wear? For example, an offline interview. What would you wear to an interview?
Yeah, if I'm interviewing somebody like this, of course, don't wear your PJs, don't wear something too casual, but you don't have to worry about it too much because nobody walks in their homes in suits and ties, so don't overdo it either. Just look, I don't know, I would say just casual, but not too much, just be normal.
Yeah. I think it also depends basically on the position that you're applying to. Maybe if you're applying to be a salesman, they usually, they used to dress a little bit differently. So I think it's also accordingly to the job position that you're applying to.
Oh yeah, definitely. But with my positions that I hire, which is either IT or marketing or office kind of works, where we have informal dress code, I would not expect anybody to be, all dressed up. So that would be kind of weird to me. Of course, use common sense and don't overdo it, but don't underestimate it either.
Okay, perfect. So if an online interview, which is right now, of course, nowadays the situation, and it might stay for a longer time here, what would you give as an advice to rock the stage on camera, basically?
So be aware that you're not talking to the screen and the person that you're seeing on the screen, you're talking to the camera. So don't be distracted by looking at the people on the screen, because they will see you looking like this. and that's not direct eye contact.
Yeah.
So try to have as much eye contact as you can by looking through the camera, and of course don't forget to smile. That always helps.
How about, for example, like notes? For example, I have notes today, so it might seem a little bit distracting, but at the same time, you usually have some notes. Like, for example, if you have your CV on hand, is that okay? Or is it taking, like, I should really like look, like on you and on the camera?
I think you should know your CV by your experience. I don't know if you would bring your notes to the interview. If you would, okay, cool. If you wouldn't, I wouldn't really recommend it, because I think just being yourself and looking at the camera and trying to connect with the people on the other side is much more important than having your notes. But if you feel more comfortable, have them ready somewhere nearby, and maybe prepare the people that you're just having notes or something like that. Because if you don't say it, and you, for example, try to type something into the computer while you're talking with them, that's not a good sign, and maybe they will try to, maybe they will think about it that you're trying to find out info that you don't have already, or you came underprepared.
Okay, yeah, that's completely true. That's completely true. I agree. So, what are the questions that I should prepare when going to an interview?
Try to ask about the job in more detail. They try to describe it in their ad, in the job description there, but try to find out more about the team, the processes, the challenges for the position in the upcoming period, and make it look like you're really interested in what you're going to be doing.
Yeah.
So ask about the challenges because you're going to face them. So you want to be ready, right?
Yeah, definitely. Okay. So something happened, and unfortunately, I cannot attend the interview. How would you approach this from a point of a candidate?
Communicate it as soon as possible. State your reasons and be ready to be flexible with the times or the rescheduling for the next time. It happens. It's life. It can always happen. Don't worry about it too much, but be prepared to be flexible the next time.
Okay, so is it also like, should I state what happened, or if it's sometimes a family urgency or something like that and you don't really want to share it, is it okay if I don't, or should I always say at least like what is happening in order to not be totally off after?
At least frame it so that it doesn't give away some weird vibes. If it's a family issue, just say that it's a family issue and nobody is going to go deeper into it. But it's always to frame it at least in some way.
Okay. So one of my favorite questions, and I think that everybody is actually scared of it, is tell me something about yourself. It's like an opening question that I think that a lot of recruiters ask it also because they want to know how will you present it, what kind of information will you take out of your CV, so that you don't talk for 40 minutes, but actually put everything in like 2 or 3 minutes, and that so that it's engaging, the information that you're telling. What kind of advice would you give, to answer that question, basically?
Of course, they've read your CV, so you don't have to go bullet pointing all the experience that you have. I would advise you to start with the motivation. Why do you want the job? Why do you want to work for the company in regards to your experience and skills? And what do you think you could bring to the company by hiring you based on what you've experienced? So start with your motivation. I think most of the advice on internet or on workshops that you get is hire for attitude, train for skill. So I think that's what either hiring managers or HR people are looking for.
Okay, so for example, like starting with my education and then going like through my work experience is not really that relevant, but starting with a story maybe, sort of.
Yes.
Okay.
And incorporate it into the story, because it is what makes you you, right?
Yeah.
But try to highlight, why do you even want the job, and why do you think it would be beneficial for both parties to work together.
Okay. So after the interview, I have a very good feeling that it went well. Would you follow up with the recruiter, or would you stay a little bit out and wait until the recruiter tells you the result?
Based on what you agreed on with the recruiter, if you agreed on some next steps, and the ball is on their side, as we say, let them approach you. But if you think you've done well, just a simple thank you is all right. It never hurts, and it shows the appreciation of their time. So that never hurts. You can always do that.
Okay, that's a good sign, because I always think it's sort of like a nice thing to do, but sometimes I feel like it can be taken a little bit like cocky, like 2 hours right away, I get an email like saying thank you. So it's good to know that from your point of view, it's actually nice if you feel that it went well. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool, perfect. So of course, it's very specific for every recruiter, but do you have any favorite psychological behavioral questions that you ask?
Yeah, it might seem odd, but sometimes, not always, just really in some cases, I like asking the sort of question. I'm also a coach, so I try to find out the motivation of the people, and I ask, if money were no object, what would they do with their years and days that they have ahead? Because of course everybody wants to buy all the things that they long for, but how do you spend your time when money is no object? And it shows you what the person is interested in, and their motivation. And another one that I like to ask more often is about the hardest situation that they had to face, or maybe hardest feedback that they've either received or have to give.
Okay, and in order to work, so their experience with work, like what they had to challenge, or is it more? Can it be also personal?
It is also interesting seeing how people take on the questions. Some answer in work-related terms and situations, and some take it in a more personal level. I don't mind either. I just think it's interesting seeing how they present themselves in these situations. So that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for how they dealt with it, and what the end results were.
Okay, perfect. Very interesting questions. I've never got any of them, so I'll be prepared if somebody asks me anytime. Cool, thank you very much. Okay, so going to the mistakes. What do you think is the key mistake that somebody can do when showing up at an interview?
Well, the basic mistake we've already talked about is not knowing what company you're interviewing for. But I think that doesn't happen often. The most common mistake that I see is not asking any questions. I don't like seeing that much, although, of course, sometimes that can happen, but just have some questions ready. And not just questions about benefits. That also is not the best sign. So as I was telling you earlier, try to find out more about the job and the challenges you're going to be facing, and have some questions ready.
So maybe one of the first questions shouldn't be also about the salary, maybe? Like the first idea. Okay.
First one. Of course, there is a time and a place talking about salary,
but
it should definitely not be the first one.
Okay. So you've talked a little about that, what you're searching for in a candidate, like the motivation and the questions that they're asking. What are the other soft skills that you're searching for in a candidate?
I don't know if I would call this a soft skill, but what I'm after is authenticity. and openness, because in the company that I'm working for currently, and in the companies that I worked before, everybody valued openness, friendliness, and authenticity. So this is what I'm after in each and every candidate, be it whether they can talk about hard things that nobody wants to talk about, whether they're able to give honest feedback, or whether they just like are comfortable being themselves. You know, so that's one thing. And another thing that I'm looking for is, how would I put it? Like something like common sense. Whether they're trying to solve problems and conflicts, you know, not overcomplicating things or not simplifying them, just like, you know, having the common sense.
Okay, perfect. That's really great. Okay. So sometimes, I think that might happen, that sometimes people put in CV something that they actually cannot do that well, and then a hard skill, let's say, and then somebody brings it up, of course. I don't know, like for example, Facebook manager. And then you ask maybe a more specific question to get to know actually the person, if the person knows how to work with it. And then it turns out that I don't have the answer. Should I go up front and, you know, saying like, yeah, I don't know that answer. Actually, I'm a junior in this, or should I try to make something up? How should I approach this?
Yeah. I don't know if I should be telling this, but try to read the situation. Whether you think it is really, really important and you're going to be needing this skill, then admit it, but also have prepared an example on a similar situation where you didn't know how to handle things and you had to learn them quickly and how you handled them, so that you can convince them that you're capable of learning and studying and, you know, just like resolving this.
Sort of turning it into your opportunity to present that you can actually learn, and that's not a problem for you.
But if you know, it's like a small detail, and you know that it's not anything that your position would depend on heavily, and it's just a minor thing, I'd say fake it till make it. Sometimes it just plays right in.
Yeah, I think, and I'm not taking it like, when I'm saying that a lot of people can lie a little bit in the CV, it's actually normal, because I think that sometimes if you don't put that information that is needed in the CV, you might not get called to come to the interview, you know? So still the person tries, and then the person thinks that, you know, she can sort of like talk it through, which I think works actually, you know, that you fake it maybe in the CV, but then you're humble. And you talk through it, and as you said, turning it into your opportunity to say that you know you're a fast learner or something like that. So yeah, cool. Okay.
My bottom line is, I don't want it to like sound like, okay, just lie on the interview. No, that's not what I'm recommending. My bottom line is always be honest, but sometimes who doesn't do it, right? So it's not like you're a bad person for doing that. It's just that when it comes up, be ready to face it and just like tell the truth, but have another situation ready where you present it like you can learn and you can just apply it immediately.
Okay, perfect. So is there a difference between preparing for my first, second, or maybe even third interview? Is there a difference how I should prepare for it?
It depends on who you're going to meet. After every interview, you should know more about the job and know more about the company. So you should always be better prepared. And depending on who you're going to meet, whether you're meeting the boss of your boss, just be ready to, you know, approach it differently. But in each and every case, I would say just present yourself the best you can and be ready to answer any questions that arise. But I don't think it should be that different. I think each person wants to know whether you're capable of doing the job, whether you're the right candidate. So sometimes you might need to repeat some information multiple times, but that's nothing against anything. You just repeat that and be ready to, sell your qualities with the examples on hand.
What is your biggest weakness? That question. How would you answer that?
My number one advice is please do not answer perfectionism.
Okay.
That is so cliche. Every HR person has heard or read the old school articles about, just say perfectionism and that's some kind of a quality. It's not the best quality. It also has some cons. So be honest. Try to say what you're not good at. Nobody is perfect. But also try to, again, have some examples ready on how are you overcoming it in certain situations, or what are you doing in terms of either eliminating it or substituting it with something. Somebody is not good at organizing things, but they're creative. Somebody is not good at creativity, but they're perfect in project management. And again, know what kind of job you're applying for, and highlight your strong sides, but be prepared to say that you're not good at something. We're all people. And the important thing is have an example ready, again, on how you're dealing with it, really.
Okay, cool. Thank you. We have two last questions. If the interview happens in person, should I bring my printed CV and cover letter in case the recruiter wants to see it, or is it not a must nowadays, let's say?
Me personally, I can't speak for everybody. I would consider it cute because I always work digitally. Even when I'm interviewing, I'm writing my notes in my computer in the system that we're using, and I try not to print the CVs, so to save the planet. So that's not necessary. But if you feel better having it, have it. But it's nothing that I would require or I would even expect.
Okay, cool. So the last question would be, what should I expect if I'm asked to go on an out-of-office interview? So let's say for coffee or maybe for lunch. What should I expect? Is it like, is it taking like they want to see me live, how I speak to waitresses and stuff like that? Or like, what should I expect from that?
Don't expect it to be like the usual formal thing, but don't let your guard down in terms of you're always, like, at the end of the day, you're there for an interview. So you're not there for coffee or for a free lunch or anything. Be prepared to answer the questions that you're going to be asked, and be the professional that you are, even if it's in an informal event. That's what I would suggest.
Okay, cool. All right, well, that's it. That was pretty quick. Thank you, Lucia, for all your answers. We're going to have more these topics coming up, so stay tuned. And thank you, Lucia, for coming with me today.
Thank you for asking the questions you've asked. It was very, very amusing for me as well.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too. Bye.